Hello everybody and welcome to another Stellaris video. Today I wanted to talk about the 10 changes that I would like to see most in Stellaris, specifically coming up in the next few updates where we're probably going to get some species packs and other things like that. However, I think the game balance is in some desperate need of adjustments and what I think could be changed. The first thing that I really want is I want gigastructures or megastructures from Galactic Wonders to be buffed. Just as an example here, I have a completed Dyson sphere, an action that requires a lot of megastructure building, tens of years, and an entire tradition perk dedicated to it for 4,000 energy credits. On the other hand, I made a late game generator world that easily generates 22,000 energy credits just by itself. The main culprit for why this is so strong is support zones. If I go ahead and turn on instant build first of all, so let's go ahead and turn on instant build, and then deactivate all these support zones by replacing them with just generator nexuses. Now we can see that this planet is down to generating only 17,000 energy credits, which is still a lot, but it uses twice as many tech drones to do so as well. By building support zones, not only do you make your planet more efficient, it also requires less pops, which is a quadratic feedback loop for efficiency. And I think that this is overpowered and needs to be removed, in addition to megastructures being buffed, or just nerfing the support zones and basic resource production enough so that the megastructures feel more impactful than an actual planet. By the way, this is also just a size 12 world, or size 16, my apologies, and it's not even fully ascended. And if we fully ascend this, the numbers that we're going to get are going to be even more ridiculous, and most likely in a true late game situation where you have megastructures, you would also have fully ascended planets. And we can just take a look at this. It's generating an absolutely ludicrous amount of energy now. If we balance it out better and build some more central nexuses, we could probably get this over 30,000. We're getting close. I'm not sure the exact best ratio here. Are we at 30,000? 29,000. We're getting closer. So yeah, we're probably very close to the apex here. Yeah, we're going back down again. So you can see how, like, you can get just a ridiculous amount of production from your planets, and this needs to be changed. The next thing I wanted to show was the size of fleets in modern Stellaris. Here's a save of Knights of the Toxic God. Yes, this is one of the most overpowered builds that was played before the Shroud Shaper nerf. And you can see that we have a ridiculous amount of tech, don't mind that, but let's take a look at these fleet sizes. These are battleships, the absolute largest ships available in Stellaris, if you're not Cosmogenesis, that are, you can build an infinite number of them, and even an empire like this at just year 100 has hundreds of them already. I think that this is not good for two reasons. The first and most obvious reason is lag. I have a very beefy computer, so this date might still look pretty fast to most players, but this is also a pretty small galaxy, and the number of fleets in the galaxy is definitely slowing us down already. But in addition, I think it also loses the feel and importance of individual ships. I believe it would be very cool if individual number of battleships and juggernauts or titans really felt highly impactful to the military power of your empire, instead of just spamming out so many ships that the biggest problem is ship build speed. It is really not quite as fun, in my opinion, from a roleplay theme or an in-game theme where I give up on saves that go significantly past this date as they really start to lag, which makes the game generally not very fun. The proposed solution I have to this would probably be to simply make the ships cost something like 10 times more. They take up 10 times the naval cap, and they have 10 times the fleet power. This wouldn't reduce the fleet power of things overall, but it would make even something like an individual corvette feel somewhat impactful, as it takes 1,000 alloys to build something that is a significant investment for your empire. I don't know what we should do with starting fleets then. Should we start with just a single corvette? Probably. I'm not exactly sure what the best way to do that is, or I think the way that they're planning to do it in the beta is already out, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how they change it, as this is something that I believe is already on the change radar. So yeah, hopefully what they do is fun, and when that happens, I'll also probably be making a video about ships, so stay tuned for that. Here I'm playing a random cloning save, and here at year 61, you can see we already have 3,000 tech, which is nothing spectacular, but we're also maintaining a 2,500 over naval capacity fleet right here. So this is an absolutely enormous fleet. And I think one of the reasons why this is possible and why economies are spiraling out of control to be so powerful in Stellaris these days is the overwhelming number of pops that we get from pop ascension. Here on every single planet, I have over plus 20 pop growth, which is very easily possible with either purity or cloning ascensions or even synthetic ascensions. And generally, what this means is you become limited by only the size and building speed of planets, which doesn't feel very interesting. It also completely discourages invasion and taking over neighbors and actually going to war. If you couldn't naturally grow your empires internally as fast as you currently can, you would need to go out into the galaxy, conquer empires, maybe take tributes, maybe do something like that, or interact with them in general in order to scale quickly. But instead, the kind of Stellaris meta is to just chill in one location in the corner of the galaxy, SimCity up, and don't mind me, I love SimCitying up in the corner and just managing my planets and my economy, and likewise, just scaling up. However, a lot of players can and do find this to be somewhat boring, and I completely agree with them. I think this could definitely be changed. And another reason why I think pop growth should be reduced from all ascensions is the following. First of all, when you have 20 pop growth on every planet, it encourages you to go wide as much as possible. When you're able to instantly build up as many planets as you have, an extra planet doesn't just mean an extra planet, it means an entire extra world that you can designate to something. For example, if I wanted tech, I could dedicate an entire extra planet to tech, and every single random planet I get is another source of tech growth. If I have 2 planets, I'm going to have twice as much tech as if I have 1 tech planet, because I'm only limited by the pop growth speed. Normally, what you would do is you would resettle the pops that are growing on one of your newer colonies to an older one, to make sure you have all the efficiency bonuses stacked on one world, and then grow that planet specifically. However, this isn't really the playstyle that you get in most Meta Stellaris builds, where you just go wide. You go wide as fast as you can, and then you go tall as fast as you can at the same time. You're basically playing both at the same time, and it's just generally very overpowered. I think another important thing is ascended empires, or any build that can ascend quickly, now outscales any build that can't ascend quickly by a crazy margin. If you go into a multiplayer game, almost everybody will be running a Unity Rush Civic in the early game, whether it's Memorialists, Parliamentary System, or even something funny like Death Cult, or Fortune Tellers, which, by the way, are both fantastic for early game still, just to ascend quickly and then transition out of that, as unascended empires cannot keep up, and one of the primary reasons they don't get access to such pop growth. This also means, I think, other ascensions wouldn't leave psionics behind in the dust so far, or maybe you could give psionics a source of pop growth. That would be another good option. Another thing I would like to see in Stellaris is generally improved tooltips. There are some things that are hard to discover simply because the tooltips for it are bad or completely missing, and you have to look carefully in order to discover otherwise. Let's take a look at this Cyto Revitalization Center. It actually is giving me a +2 base pop assembly as a output, but nowhere does it say this in my ascension. Not in any of these tooltips. If you read them, it says that you'll actually get this +1 pop assembly per 100 economic researcher jobs anywhere. And the only way to know this is just by knowing or having somebody tell you, because when you take regenerative cloning, it also still gives you that bonus, but nowhere does it say that. And this can definitely be very, very confusing. I don't even know if it happens from regenerative cloning or when you take the cloning ascension perk at the start. I genuinely don't know where it comes from because the tooltips do not tell us. It's very, very clear when something like your clone vat says a +3 monthly organic pop growth. That is very nice, but for other things, it's completely hidden. Another place where this is present is just simply for a ton of the civics in this game. If I go ahead and exit to main menu here, and let's say I try to create a new game, and I want to know what a civic I never use does. Let's just pick a random civic here, and kind of experiment with this, right? So let's just say I want to play with um, eager explorers, right? Like we get this tooltip, it's nice and everything, but then we go to something more like entropy drinkers, right? And we get all these leaders and that kind of thing. You get the psychic trait. What does the psychic trait do? I don't know what the psychic trait does unless, I've already happened to know. I couldn't possibly know because the tooltips don't go into enough detail. And this makes the game like you need to go to the wiki to discover a lot of things. Or just simply hear about it from word of mouth is one of the big ways things are transmitted these days in terms of learning Stellaris. And this could all be improved if, for example, I get the unique building vaults of knowledge. We get the nice tooltip that they produce unity per leader, whatever, or they increase unity and leader experience gain based on destiny traits. What's a destiny trait? What kind of jobs does the vault of knowledge give? How much leader experience gain? We don't know any of these things from the tooltips, so it is very hard to judge the power of things without outright trying them. When if we just had better tooltips, none of this issue. Another thing that I think is pretty important and is not explained very clearly in the game anywhere, is traits. Traits are locked behind different portraits. And first of all, I don't think this should be something that exists. I think all traits should be unlocked for all the pop portraits because I just think that would be fun. But in addition, the pop portraits aren't clear on a lot of things. Let's give the example of I want to have a species with the shelled trait in combination with seasonal dormancy. First of all, you wouldn't believe that's actually possible for most players because if you mouse over shelled, it says musculoid and necroid required. And then if I mouse over the seasonal dormancy trait, now I have to go find it. First of all, this needs a search bar, but let's not focus on that right now. Let's go ahead and look for seasonal dormancy. There it is, requires mammalian reptilian. So there's no overlap. But did you know you can still have that combination of traits if you want? Because there is a specific portrait in the reptilian class or in the mammal class that allows you to have that combination. I can't even remember exactly where it is. Maybe it's in the mammalian. Let me see if I can find it. Like, see, these are things that I know about, and I still struggle to find it. There's like a bear-looking guy. You can have both these traits. I use it all the time. I should really know this. Or is it not the bear-looking guy? Let me find it. I'll be right back. I found it. It's this guy. It's the turtle-looking dude. Yeah, I could completely forgotten about this guy because I haven't used him for a while. But this guy can actually have both of those traits at the same time. You can go ahead and take seasonal dormancy and shelled. This is normally really hard to know about. And I think if you had portrait freedom, first of all, that would solve this issue. And you could take these traits on any portrait as long as you have the DLC for it, right? Or another way to do it is just have the client portrait automatically, like you select the traits and the game tries to make it possible for you. I mean, there is one thing, which is like if I take shelled and then I select a different portrait, that doesn't normally have access to shelled, it'll highlight the ones that make this combination of traits work, which is nice. But like it can still be really tricky to figure out how to get the portrait you need to make the traits work. I also think that you should be able to have your traits, your portraits client side, and not for everyone else, right? So if you want to break the rules and make it so that you have a seasonal dormancy humanoid species portrait, right? The game will select a random portrait that makes that combination of traits work with other portraits that exist in the game, so other people don't have to get confused looking at your humanoid with traits with pops that aren't supposed to have, mammalian species or traits or something like that on it. There's a lot of solutions. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I usually play, if I play single player, and I'm not recording videos, I will actually play with a mod that enables portrait freedom because I think it's really awesome, but I don't want to confuse people and make impossible combinations of traits when I record videos, so I don't do that. But yeah, I think that could be really improved. Two other small changes I would like to see. One of them is the council. The council simply moves too slowly, I find, to be super impactful in the game. The Galactic community reacts too slowly to the likes of crisis perks. They react too slowly in terms of just the amount of time between election as well and each diplomatic stance. Usually the game is completely decided before you can really get much done with the council. Like, for example, if I wanted to work down the Charter of Workers' Rights line, you'd have to start right at the beginning of the game and continuously support this over and over and over again for decades before this would get done. And that's only if you remember to interact with the council every single time. And yeah, the Diplo weight here is not really very fair, but yeah, I think the way the speed the council moves is too slow compared to the speed at which the game moves. And in addition to that, the Empire size effects are not hefty enough to reduce the downside of going wide. And too much of the Empire size, I believe, is from pops, and not enough is from systems for most empires, meaning Empire size from pops reductions really matter more than from anything else. Even an empire like this, which takes zero effort into reducing its empire size, one where I've just been spamming planets and habitats, has hardly any empire size from anything except for pops. And in addition to that, most empires now have many ways to access empire size from pops reduction. And it's not uncommon for even a regular empire without sovereign guardianship, without any specific effort to reduce empire size from pops, to get to less than 20% empire size from pops. And as a result, just take a look at this tech speed. I mean, we're doing a repeatable that costs 180,000 tech in 3 months, which is really, really fast. Yeah, and I think a lot of this is because the Empire size effects have had too many ways to negate their effects effectively. So I don't know if that needs to be changed, or if just by reducing the tech, that would also accomplish the same thing. So one or the other. Same with Unity. Like, Unity numbers are completely outside of this world these days. They're just so incredibly high with the amount of source of Unity from the likes of factions. While I'm not even getting Unity from factions or trade, it is extremely easy to finish your entire tradition tree with builds that don't even focus that hard on Unity before like year 60 these days. Like, I don't even remember when I finished my tradition tree in this build, but it was definitely quite fast. And yes, this is Toxic God, which is extremely overpowered. But you'll find you'll probably end up doing this with any trade empires, any bio ascension rush empires that end up going into trade federations, um, or even just builds that get a lot of unity from factions just due to high pop count, or like a purity ascended hive. Like, there's so many ways that you're going to finish your tradition tree so quickly these days. A quick one here is I would like to see multiplayer stability. Right, desyncs are still king when it comes to multiplayer stability. This is one of the main reasons why I don't play that much multiplayer these days, in addition to the complexity of the rule sets. So yeah, this is a bit of a hopium take, but I really hope that the multiplayer stability could be improved, but we all know that's more of a pipe dream than a realistic thing. I think another thing that a lot of people would probably like to see is a power level increase for fun and roleplay type builds. For example, if I want to play Criminal Heritage as a civic, this entire civic is just completely outweighed by the fact that I'm playing overtuned. Right? My origin is going to affect the power of this build level far more than me trying to interact with Criminal Heritage in each way. I would rather literally just only interact with the effects of Overtune, not even play Criminal Heritage, and just ignore it as a thing that exists, for example, and succeed anyway. There are so many examples of this where the effects of an Origin or Civic are so mild or so low that you would play the build to Ascension Rush if you were playing optimally, regardless of whether that was the idea behind the Origin or not. I think a lot of Origins that aim to be thematic or fun in some way have downsides that they really don't need to have. Um, like, some of them are meant to be challenging, right? Like Hard Reset or Doomsday, I completely understand why exist. They don't need a buff. But then we have things like Necrophage, which are so fun, but are just so terrible in so many different ways. They um, have to purge. They can't go egalitarian. They don't get any unity from uh, they don't get any unity from pops if you actually have the Necro Purge available, right? You can go egalitarian, right, and not be able to purge your pops, right, which defeats the point of Necrophage and have enough unity and that kind of thing. But like, what's the fun in that? And Just maybe things like subterranean, like which you have to go lithoid and or you don't have to go lithoid, but like you get all these negative downsides for some reason when they're not strong in the first place. You know what I mean? Like mineral districts uncapped. Every build has mineral districts uncapped with mineral with text these days, right? So this doesn't do anything, and then you get all these downsides for no reason at all. Like we could just remove these downsides, and it would be perfectly fair. Um, Payback, well, obviously that's just purely for fun and for role play. I don't think arc welders needs a nerf, to be honest, but like a lot of the psionic ones too, like they have downsides despite psionics just being so bad. Um, like I don't know what we could do about psionics, to be honest. It's really disappointing that there's all these fun new psionic origins, and the only good one is Shroudforged, basically. Uh, like Shroudforge is great, but that's because machines plus psionics just generally works. But like things like Storm Chasers, you know what I mean? Like people only use this for trolling because none of the benefits it gives are really that worth it in any way. And there's just so many fun origins that people don't really look at to play for meta reasons. Under One Rule is another one of those. Like a lot of these origins, I don't know what we could do with them, but I think they need the impacts of these origins to actually keep up with modern power creep of the game, right? Like here we have like nice bonuses, like I don't know, pass aesthetic giving +1 or plus half a society research per bureaucrat. That's a cool bonus. But then we have other things like um, what is it? There is if you I think it's if you have a scientist leader, right, with this, and then you don't obviously want eye for talent. There's one that gives uh, science per what am I trying to say? Oh my gosh, I should think about what I'm saying before I say it. There's one that gives science per brain poacher. Yeah, here it is. You get migration pact. Per migration pact, you get 3 research. This is a joke of amount of research these days. This used to be amazing. You could go into a galaxy, put the maximum number of empires 30, try to make a migration pact with all of them, and if you succeeded, you'd be getting 1,000 tech just from the brain poacher. Nowadays, 1,000 tech is a number you hit at year 20, right? With half a tech world and like nothing. You know what I mean? Like this is a nothing amount of tech these days, and I think that like fun traits like that could definitely see buffs. Obviously, the game isn't meant to be balanced, which is fine, but it would be nice to see that the game balance could be improved. I think the last thing that I specifically want to see is an increase in the difficulty of Grand Admiral AIs. Currently, it's kind of awkward fighting at Grand Admiral AIs because there is a scaling curve to their power. They start the game much stronger than you and just continuously fall off compared to you as the game goes on, and by the time you get to late game, the Grand Admiral AIs are complete jokes. They're not much stronger at year, say, 100 than they are at year 60. In fact, many of them end up weaker, if not the same. Whereas human players more than double their empire power usually per time in the game that passes. As you can see, no matter which empire I click on, they're going to be pathetic, pathetic, pathetic. And of course, this is Knights of the Toxic God. But even if you just play a regular Ascension Rush, you play with regular planets, you could have 20, 30,000 tech right now and 3 to 4,000 alloys instead of what I do have. But I mean, that's still plenty powerful to more than outscale any single AI in the entire game. And I think they need to have their AI cheating bonuses continuously ramped up throughout the game because the AI will never make good planets. Just how complicated it would be to have them prioritize the correct things in order for them to properly scale up how powerful they are and Ascension Rush and all that kind of thing sounds like it's just too difficult to do. Um, but yeah, the issue is they just fall off so hard in the late game. Like they're probably pretty hard to beat for most players until you're 40 or 50, and then they just continuously keep falling off relative to human players. I think they're cheating. There should be a setting that makes how much they cheat by continuously scale up throughout the whole game. So by the end game, they're literally all playing with like 700, 800, 1,000% resource bonuses just to keep them up with players because, this is honestly kind of the level of production that players are playing with these days. Considering how fast they ascend and how many pops they end up with, and the kind of min-maxing that players know how to do that AIs don't. However, I understand this probably doesn't affect most players. Most players probably don't play on Grand Admiral no scaling AI. So I understand this isn't very important, and it's more something that I would personally and selfishly like to see rather than something that needs to be implemented, like probably some of the previous things need to do. So, anyways, that's my list for the changes I would like to see in Stellaris. Please let me know what you guys would like to see, what problems that you are experiencing in the Stellaris meta these days. I just think, yeah, it's just mostly how most of the things are just tied to how overpowered the builds are. Um, right? But I'm very excited personally, at least for the ship changes. I think nerfing ships and the economic rebalance, which are already in the pipelines, could work. I'm not exactly sure the ways they are planning to implement those yet. I'm not a reader of the beta and dev diaries, um, but I hear they are planning to nerf the basic economy a bit, which I think is fantastic. I'm happy to hear that. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.